was NXT Deadline. Even though it was on social media the less popular show, there were a lot of interesting things that happened. But I wanted to know kind of your take on your takeaways from NXT Deadline. What were some standout moments to you?
Okay, so going in there, I don't want to say I had no expectations, but like this was basically the test dummy, the guinea pig to see will this stick or not in replacement to War Games since that's been transferred over to the main roster. Um, and I felt as though, like, first going in, seeing the females, and then the males Soul Survivor match. At first, when I saw the females on the list, I wouldn't say that I was completely disinterested, but I didn't expect them to show out the way that they were showing out. And what I loved about both their matches between like the males and the females was that they both gave you two completely different acts going on. Like with
Mm-hmm.
the female Soul Survivor, yes, it's 25 minutes long. It didn't feel like 25 minutes. It actually felt like much faster because there's so much going on inside. So when it came to like the females compared to like the males, I noticed that the females spend more time outside the pod and they only had one woman normally in the pod, but they still had so much going on, the camera changing all over the place. I thought it was great. I thought the right person did go over. The only thing that is my biggest critique about the show is how Kiana was robbed of having at least one submission or pin. That really pissed me off. I was just like, if you have to go out, if you have to like rethink about who really put on the show out of all the women, Kiana. There's been clips shared of Kiana, her doing flips, her doing locks, her just showing off her athleticism. You know what I mean? Like I think a lot of people by the end of it, even if she didn't win, there was a payoff for everyone in there, but especially Kiana. 'Cause I don't think people were paying much mind to her. And like yes, Roxanne won and she rightfully won. It only made sense because they have this um feud going on still with her and Cora Jade that's supposed to be long term. You know what I mean? And we watched her head spin. The girl that she literally left, turned heel on, you know what I mean, has gotten the championship before her. The one thing she's been not even the champion, the opportunity to go win a championship and then later on go get it, but we're gonna get into why she got it later on.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? There was so many moving parts going into it that it was just yeah. I liked it a lot. I thought it was fun. I thought it was interesting. Um Compared to the men was more slower. It was more methodical, but there was more storytelling going on with the men's.
Mm.
Especially with Grayson Waller. Especially with Grayson Waller. If I didn't respect that man before, I especially respect him after watching that match. He gave me complete edge vibes. This is not me being just because I'm an edge mark. It's just like he's such an opportunist dickhead. And he went about everything in such the most logical way. Like if he were playing a video game. He got he got the highest amount of submissions or pinfalls that you needed. And then he looked at the clock and said, fuck that. Why am I gonna keep wrestling? I'ma dodge all you motherfuckers. And he ran. I'm like, yo, that's the exact thing I would do if I was in a video game. I love it. I love when wrestling is logical.
Right.
I loved it. The storytelling was great. I like how they had all the men literally neck and neck, except for one. Who was the person that was dead last? Who just didn't have a chance? I forgot
Axiom.
who it was.
Axiom.
Yeah, Axiom, which he needs to change that name. It sounds like a chemistry term or something. Is it a chemistry term? Like, what the
Like a
fuck
like
is
a
an
chem
axiom?
like a element on the periodic table. It does. It
It,
does give me those
it,
vibes.
yeah, like that's such a weird name, and I did not like his entrance. Can I just talk shit about it? What the fuck was up with this whole fake ass Flash shit going on, where he was acting like he was moving fast, and then like bitch,
I liked it.
that
I
part
liked it.
that was the worst. I'm not sure if that was the first time he ever debuted. I'm assuming he was on the show before that to get on the Soul Survivor fucking match card. But it was my first time watching. I was like, yo, what is this entrance? Like it's like the exact opposite of like the slow mo entrance that they would have with Mandy or they had with John Morrison. They just had this man fake acting like the Flash, like he's in many places, and then they skipped him walking down to the ramp because they knew that that'd be a logic gap for him.
Mhm.
in his entrance. They just can't cut. Then the camera cut to the ring with him
And he
still
was
doing
there.
the fast shit, just for him to be in slow motion in real time during the match. It was just throw out the gimmick for the love of God. Throw it out. He's a great in ring competitor. I will give him that.
Very
He
true.
intrigued me in the ring, but that whole packaging of him, I was like, like he, no, 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 toss it out, toss it out. But did the right person win? Yes, I think that it only made sense that since we gave it to a baby face for the females, that a male had to win.
A heel,
So
yeah.
not the male. That a heel had to win for the males. That that was good. That was perfect because it tells two different stories moving on with both divisions or both people that were contenders. And yeah, we're gonna get into what happened with the girls, but at least more storytelling when you give it to a heel. It always does.
Right.
It always does. So that was great. And then we had some matches outside of that. The first one that came to my mind was the main event with Apollo and Braun Breaker, and it's because my brain can't seem to turn off that awkward camera angle we got of Apollo where
And
he
the
had the crazy eyes.
that
Yeah,
I don't know what that was.
like it looked like he was in the middle of an exorcist or something. I was like, what is happening here? And I low key wanted Apollo to win because I love Braun Breaker. I think he's great. I thought the feud was a
Same.
little bit lazy of a setup. It was awkward because you have a 25-year-old, and I'm assuming Apollo's in his 30s or whatnot. Y'all had this weird setup of these young men going fishing and stuff like that. I'm just like, they're young. What young people are going fishing? I just thought it was weird. The whole setup with them feuding was weird and lazy, but the match itself showed out. I just would have preferred if, like I said, Apollo would have went over just simply because what more does Braun Breaker like need to do in NXT? I don't know. Like I don't know who they're trying to set up besides Grayson Waller. So, but didn't they already come in contact with each other?
With
I'm not
Grayson
mistaken.
Waller and Braun.
Y-
I'm
Did they
not
have a
complete.
1v1 yet?
I'm not sure. I'm not completely sure. I think that they did, but I think that it was either before Braun was champion, before Grayson was like really established. So
Okay.
it was
I
either
guess. So
or.
they've been okay, because I just feel like they've been spending a lot of time with this whole Grayson Waller thing, and he lost me at some point. But after what he did, in that Soul Survivor match, I would actually love to see him, and I would love to see like a heel champion because now we got two babyface champions. Which I'm not saying makes the show boring, but you do need to have some balance here.
Hmm.
So it leads me to think that next pay per view, Braun's definitely like losing it in some shape, way, or form because like you kind of have to now. What was the other two matches
New Day versus Pretty
from Deadline?
Deadly, New Day versus Pretty Deadly,
Oh,
and Isla Dawn versus Alba Fire.
that was he. That was he. Actually, if it weren't for the Soul Survivor, that would have been my favorite match, the New Day versus Pretty Deadly. That was fun. That was fun as shit. And I thought that it made them look good. And mind you, I wasn't really high on Pretty Deadly. I didn't really care for them. But the New Day, they're they're in my opinion one of the greatest tag teams out there. They always manage to bring the best qualities out of their competitors, and they most definitely show that out with Pretty Deadly. They had amazing chemistry. There were some funny parts in the match. There were some serious parts in the match. But ultimately, I did think that the belts did go to the right people. I see a lot of like flack on social media about people being upset about the New Day having them because it's just like, well, the New Day always has the belts. Why do they have to have, belts in NXT? I feel like that's good because NXT is still underneath reconstruction. All right. It's
Hmm.
been having a bit of a personality mishap over the last year. So I feel like since they're underneath construction and now they went from bouncing back and forth between treating like a developmental brand or a 1.5 brand or whatever, you know what I mean? Now that they're treating it like a tertiary brand now, I feel like it's good to actually bring talents that we regularly see that are mainstream to NXT to bring some importance and some legitimacy, not only to the belts, but like get some viewers to come over and start watching NXT. You know what I mean?
Mm.
Um, and I feel like when it comes to the tag teams down there, they aren't bad. I wouldn't say
Right.
that they're bad, but I think what they're probably missing is I feel like what they're missing down there is that they don't have any storylines for the tag teams that make you care. Like they have a lot of interesting characters or whatnot, but they don't really have like any substance. Like I don't know how to explain it. It's missing something. Like do you
Mm.
see what I'm talking about?
Yeah,
There's like
yeah, yeah.
some ingredient that is missing. Do you know what it is?
I
I'm
think
watching it. I don't get it, but it made sense when the New Day came down, and it felt like there was a missing piece, and they came and fixed it.
they
But
were missing
I can't make it into words.
they were missing star power. And they were
Yeah.
missing star power and tag team quality and depth. So they have good, like, for what NXT 2.0 was going for, as far as being going back to developmental, the tag teams, okay, cool. They were what they were, they are what they are, it's fine. But if you're going to a
Yeah.
tertiary brand, something that's comparable to SmackDown or Raw, think of NXT when it was 1.0 and who they had at their disposal.
Mhm.
You had Undisputed Era, you had FTR, you had DIY, you had Authors of Pain, you had Imperium. NXT used to have one of the deepest tag team divisions in the world of any brand. Raw, SmackDown, AEW, New Japan, a lot of great tag teams were in NXT. And then on top of that, the stories that were behind them and the match qualities that they like, FTR and DIY in Toronto is a banger, all-time classic. But I feel like
Period.
now that NXT is reestablishing themselves as a primary brand, you have to increase the star power of the tag teams in that division. You have to increase the depth, and you have to fill that division up with quality teams, because you need foil for the up and coming teams. You need something for them to go up against. So I think that the New Day brings all of that. The New Day brings prestige. The New Day brings quality. The New Day brings depth. And I feel like there's a lot of good stories that they can tell with the tag teams down there. But back to you. And
No, you could. If I mean, I know you had a lot to say about the New Day, and you had a lot to say about the other matches.
so
I know
all
I'm
right.
off
So
on a ramble, so we could just go tit for tat with this.
I'll go with my little highlights and takeaways. So I do believe that Deadline is probably going to be a staple NXT pay-per-view moving forward, because the Deadline match was fantastic. I loved it. It had the it 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 was very engaging. It was very, very captivating. It did not bore me for a second. And the moment that it felt like something was like things were slowing down, a new entrant would come in, or somebody would get pinned, or somebody would submit, and somebody would have to go into the penalty box. And I feel like between the two women and men's matches, we were able to see the stories that can be told, right? You have a Roxanne, you had like the women, and they were kind of all tied up at one. And then it really just kind of came down to the last second. And then you had a Grayson Waller, and, you had a Grayson Waller who, not only went up a couple pinfalls, but now had a strategy as far as how to navigate the rest of the match so that he didn't really have to work, but nobody else caught a pinfall. So there are so many ways that a story can be told through that Deadline match. And I think that that's what I was looking for. And I think that we're going to see um more of these matches going forward, and I think this is going to be a staple. Now, the whole thing with Kiana James, right? I believe that the fact that she had a standout performance and no pinfalls is going to be the thing that develops her character, because now we want to see her win. Now we want to see her more. Had she gotten a pinfall, I don't think that we would have had that factor, because it's like, okay, she got a pinfall like everybody else, so she's cool. But like the fact that she didn't get a pinfall, it's like almost in a way she kind of lost. And now that further develops her character. And I feel like because she had such a great performance and no pinfalls, I think that gives us something to watch for in the next year. So that next Deadline, we hope that she's in the match and we hope that she wins it, because it's like
Oh, I forgot about that. Wow.
last year she didn't have any pinfalls. So now we want to see her win the whole thing, because we know what she can do in the ring. So then there's that. As far as the other matches, Isla Dawn, Alba Fire, good match. Good match. I don't know what they're going to do with Alba Fire now, but I think that they need to turn her heel. I think that that's the next big step, because you lose the title, you lose to another top heel in the division, and that top heel, or that heel that she lost to, wasn't even really in line for a title shot. Roxanne was in line for a title shot. And so now it just puts her further down the pecking order. So it's like, how is she going to, you know, sustain kind of a level in that division if she's losing so much? Um, and I feel like she needs a little bit of a character change. She needs a little bit of a heel turn because she's been the good girl for so long and it's gotten her nowhere. And I think that this is the perfect time for her to turn heel because we know what Kaylee Ray could do as a heel. Well, Alba Fire. We know what she can do as a heel. She was incredible in NXT UK as a heel. So that was a
Oh
little
yeah,
bit
she
of what I
pissed
was.
me off in that Tony Storm match. When Tony
Yeah.
lost the belt to her, I was pissed at her. I
Yeah,
hated her for
yo,
a whole year.
cats hated her. Like but that shows you how much heat that she can draw, and she didn't have to go with the lowest hanging fruit. In addition to that, here's what I will say. I felt like the whole Apollo Crews moment didn't make sense if he didn't win. Why would you sell us on a character change if his character change wasn't going to lead him to a outcome that was going to benefit him? That did nothing. That did absolutely nothing. Him going and him losing just made him look dumber because it's just like, bro really did all of that. Broly really, bro got woke in the middle of the match to lose in the match. Like if you're gonna lose, if you're gonna go that route, win the
He got
match.
woke in
Have
the
him
middle of
win
the
the
match.
match. It needs. I feel like pivotal moments like that need a payoff, right? Because like now, what is he gonna do? Is he gonna go into every other match and it's like, but it's like, uh-oh, you know what happened last time that happened? Yeah, he lost the last time that happened. So why am I fearing, or why am I like getting like ominous if his eyes get big and he turns serious, if the last time he turned serious he didn't win the match? So I just felt like there were things that they could have done to make that better, and I feel like Apollo could have won that match if the whole idea was for him to have a drastic character change or for him to have another side to him. Like, it, that to me was dumb. And I normally don't call stuff dumb, but
Yeah.
that was just dumb. But yeah, those are my little NXT takeaways, and our those are our NXT, yeah, those are our NXT deadline takeaways. But we want to know what y'all feel about it. So let us know in the comments below. But moving on